finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, and no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
All right, that's Tim's attempt to introduce another Doc Tales with Cocktails episode this week. We're glad you're here. That was
clinking.
Boy, that was
sounded terrible.
That's not crystal, that's for sure. But we are celebrating this week with some very antique, vintage glasses that I grew up with. My parents collected these things from the Esso. I think it was the Esso.
It was the Esso gas station.
Gas station.
It is the entire
during the 88 Olympics?
1988 Calgary Olympics.
And
yep.
We have the entire collection of the
glassware.
So,
it's got the logo. It has the Olympic torch logo with the maple leaf, the Calgary Olympic logo which looks like a snowflake with cowboy boots. It's
all in gold foil, and I believe if we put these in the microwave,
I brought one home.
If we put these in the microwave, it could be a disaster.
Yeah, but I brought one home, and she just put it in the dishwasher, and now it's just a glass.
It's just a glass
with nothing on it.
$20 down the drain, because I think that's what they're worth on eBay.
They're worth a fortune now, because who kept stuff they collected from Esso?
My family.
Esso, which is like Exxon in Canada.
Yeah, well, we've got stuff we collected from the 60s still in my family's house. So, on that note...
I'm from the 60s. Would you collect me?
You're so cute. We are bringing you a Halloween special this week because it's going to be Spooky Halloween week. And what better way to... dive into the Doc Tales with the Cocktails, then we thought we would bring you some spooky Halloween stories, obviously with a medical twist. So, Tim's got some good stories, and I've got some. I guess I have a demented sense of thought process because I like spooky medical facts. So, you want me to read you some first?
Yeah, start off with a few facts, and I'm going to dive into doctors and nurses behaving very badly.
Can't wait.
Very badly.
All right. You haven't heard most of these, although I'm sure you've heard of them before. All right, everybody. I was reading, on the World Wide Webs of spooky medical facts and things I could find, and I tried to validate all this stuff. So here we go. Okay, this isn't very Halloweenish, but it is gross that your cell phone, which I always knew this, is more disgusting than a public toilet, being that it has 10 times more bacteria on it than the average public restroom. So, if you're listening to this on your phone, gross. Anyway, speaking, he's looking at me like, that's not very Halloweenish. It's going to get better.
Come on, I want some frickin' guillotines and head chopping knives and stuff.
Well, all right. Let's get into the good stuff then. So, I'm going to tell you about Oscar. Oscar was a therapy cat. Have you heard of Oscar before? You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I think he's the cat that would predict when people would die.
Yeah, well, Oscar was a therapy cat that lived in the Steer House Nursing and Rehab Center in Rhode Island since 2005. I believe he has since passed, but when this info was written that I found, it came to the attention that Oscar would basically visit people in their rooms at the end stages of their lives. He liked to visit people with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other illnesses. Then the staff kind of found that Oscar seemed to be making an appearance within the last 2 hours of them dying. So then Oscar started to predict about 25 deaths, and the staff started calling, the staff would call family members of residents as soon as they discovered him sleeping next to someone in order to notify them and give them an opportunity to say goodbye before the impending death.
So they would literally use the cat like a prognostic indicator of impending death.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't really like a very friendly cat. He was pretty aloof.
Apparently not.
And he would be like often found hissing at people when he wanted to be left alone, except he would, pop up on their bedstead, usually within 2 hours. So it was believed that as of 2015, so 10 years of him living there, that he'd accurately predicted 100 deaths. And so,
did it have anything to do with the fact that he had little tiny hypodermic needles attached to his little cat arms, cat legs?
He just grabbed a pillow and snuffed them out. So, of course, there's all these possible explanations to the causes of what's going on. And some docs, hypothesize that cats could respond to the smell of chemicals released when someone's dying, or some other odor emitting during death, and other things, or that, people are they're dying and there's that lack of movement and stillness in the room rather than smell. And anyway, they don't really know. But get this, though, to correlate that with horror, taking from Oscar's story, in 2013, in Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, which was a sequel to The Shining, there's a character, Dan Torrance. He's aided at a hospice by a prescient cat who can sense when people are about to die. And Stephen King said that he, in an interview, I guess, that Oscar served as inspiration to that story. So if you've seen that movie, that's where that came from. And I guess they did this similar kind of thing in The Simpsons, where they had an episode where Homer visits his dad at the Springfield retirement castle. It's called the retirement castle, and the residents there are afraid of the cat that could tell if you're dying. So people have cashed in on that one a few times. So,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you want me to segue into people that were really good at predicting when other people were going to die?
Why don't you?
So we're going to start off with Jolly Jane Toppin.
I thought you were going to say St. Nicholas.
Wrong
holiday.
Jolly Jane Toppin was a nurse and an American serial killer. She was quoted as saying that her ambition was to have killed more people, more helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. Oh, but it gets much better than that.
And she was jolly.
She was jolly. She was really jolly when she was working, because she was killing people, and apparently that's what made her, that was her hobby. And everyone needs a hobby, right? And she was born in 1854 and died in 1938 at 84 years old. And actually, it was pretty crazy. So, she had a really bad habit, though. So the thing that we're going to you're going to find with, as we go through some of these stories, is, and hers kind of brings it to light, is, humanity has kind of a Gaussian curve of morality or normality as far as, crazy, right? And so eventually you're going to get people that are professionals, doctors, nurses, lawyers, whatever, that, become, that are deranged but are smart enough to be able to conceal their crimes. The problem in
Let's hope not.
Well, it's just going to happen, like just the law of averages. The problem is with medicine is you have access to all sorts of things that make it really easy to kill people with. And until I started researching this, I never really realized there's a giant group of doctors and nurses that killed a tremendous number of people. Actually, believe it or not, probably the top 5 or more in volume of serial killings were all doctors and nurses.
Crazy.
They weren't, like Ted Bundy or Hannibal Lecter. They were doctors and nurses, and tons of them got away with it.
Well, I guess they had access to good sneaky tools, drugs,
right,
and such.
So what Jolly Jane would do is she loved a concoction of morphine and atropine that she would inject into her patients. And then she would sometimes dose them so they would just start to die and come back to life, because she got this amazing thrill from watching them sort of die and then come back to life. And then she would completely overdose them. But it gets much better. She wouldn't just kill the patients because they were old or infirm and it was mercy killing. She would crawl into bed with them and hold them, because she got aroused by watching somebody die in her arms.
Gosh, that's sick.
And this is why every time May says, I just want to cuddle, no mas, zero mas.
And I laughed.
I just want.
I laughed
because when
wickedly.
Jolly Jane just wants to cuddle, it's not going to end well for you. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. So she, like, honestly, most of these people, nobody has any idea how many people they killed, because they could usually only prove like a handful of the murders, and then it would just kind of, drop off, and they'd confess to like maybe half or 20% of what they did.
So that was she should have been called the Cuddler or something, like the Riddler, because I mean, it was just like she just like she just put people to sleep and cuddled with them. Is that it? And then did she get sexually aroused or?
Yes, and actually, it's unusual because there's tremendous number of men that
who witnessed this? How do they know? Or did she just confess it?
She confessed. She said that she got sexually aroused by having people die in her arms.
That's just. I don't know if this is spooky or creepy. Anyway.
No, I think it's very spooky and very creepy. And it's why men don't want to cuddle. I'm telling you.
I love it.
Honey, the kitty's here and we're watching a movie. Why don't we cuddle with the kitty? No! Stop. No one gets out alive from that. Like, not anyone.
Funny.
So anyways, yeah, so Jolly Jane.
Uh-huh.
Unbelievable. Okay, so the next guy here. The next guy here is a guy named H.H.Holmes, and we're going to stick in the 19th century. So H.H.Holmes went to medical school, and he graduated, and he kind of found medical school a little bit, or medicine a little bit boring. So he ended up moving to Chicago. So he was a doctor because he graduated medicine, but he didn't really practice for very long. So he moves to Chicago, and he starts working in this pharmacy. And he kind of embezzled a bunch of money out of the pharmacists and didn't get caught. And he was a very good swindler. He'd do insurance fraud and all this kind of stuff. So then this big exposition, the Columbia Fair, like World's Fair, was coming to Chicago. And he thought, okay, well, what I'll do is I'm going to build – there's a tract of land across from the pharmacy that he's working at. And he bought it, and he built a multi-purpose building. So he built a 3-story building. The bottom was like residential stuff. Like another pharmacy, and probably this is like what 1890s, 1860s, a haberdashery shop, those kind of things. And then he had apartments on the second floor, and then on the third floor that was going to be like a hotel. But it wasn't a normal apartment building or hotel, because people would just kind of wind up dead after they associated with this guy, and nobody really knew kind of what the story was. And then eventually somebody got into the second floor apartment area, and they started discovering that he had all of these mazes where he would hide stuff.
Sounds like an episode of You.
Yes, but it was just amazing.
For people that don't know, You, the TV show, not you as in Tim.
Yeah, right, not me. So anyway, so then he but he didn't just have kind of mazes and secret passageways. He had gas chambers and torture rooms. And then in the torture rooms, he'd have trap doors that would go into the basement, where he would have pits of lye and crematoria that he built into this hotel. So they literally called it the Murder Castle. Okay? And he had sealed rooms that became gas chambers. So he had torture rooms, murder rooms, gas chambers, crematoria, and like lye stuff. So literally you could go into one room, kill the person, drag him into kill them in the room, open the trap door, and it'd be like a laundry chute, and they'd go down into like the furnace. And I'm thinking, this is why we have building codes, right? Because it's like
you got to inspect those laundry chutes,
right? I mean, it's like, well, your secret trap door and your crematoria are not like up to code. Like, you're going to get an OSHA thing if you try to burn bodies in the basement of your building now because you don't have enough shielding. And you don't have the appropriate ventilation for your gas chamber.
Yeah.
So literally, this guy that graduated from medical school, and
like, did he say anything if he did anything with the bodies, or he just like to kill people?
Well, a lot of people went, so they think he might have over 200 victims.
Oh.
But people just went missing because he like dissolve them
It's
in
the
lye.
total definition of Hotel California.
You can check out, but you can never leave.
Check in.
Yeah, you can check. Yeah, well, you can check out too, and you still can't leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're, in the laundry chute of death, literally.
Wow.
So that was H.H. Holmes.
Crazy. Well, speaking of dead bodies, did you know this fun fact? Who knew? Your house pet will probably want to eat your dead body. Have you heard about that? Apparently, there have been many cases of domesticated dogs and cats that eat their dead owners. And so if someone, dies in their house and their pet animal obviously still hanging around, weeping, mourning, licking them, what happens, they think, of course, because I guess they haven't seen this on like the new modern video cams.
Yeah, but exactly. Maybe your Ring video doorbell is like,
that
fluffy.
they think that, so what happens is the pet is like starting to like lick and nip at their owner's face, like kind of for comfort out of distress of seeing them like unconscious or hurt, or they know that something's wrong, and so they start to just like kind of pick it away until eventually they kind of start to draw blood, and then it says their instincts take over from there. So I don't know if they are starving or they just want to keep licking the wounds until they eat them alive. But apparently it's happened, so there you go. That's kind of creepy. Can you imagine our little fluffy cat, Jessie?
Yeah, but I've had my suspicions. Like, there's times you wake up and they're just sitting on your chest and they're staring like right through your soul, and it's like, dude, you with a little barbecue sauce would be amazing.
Well, then,
amazing.
Speaking of barbecue sauce and dying, then it goes even further to say that pigs will eat anything, and that includes humans. And apparently, there's a fact that there's many records of pigs that have consumed farmers. And this common occurrence, it says, I don't know what the incidence is that while tending to the pigs, the farmer will like encounter an accident in the pig's pen, trip, fall, I don't know, whatever, impale himself on a pitchfork, I don't know. And the hogs eventually feast on the owner's body. And so they eat schlop and dead people. I mean, gross.
That's why you never want to prepare undercooked pork.
Sick. I don't think I'll ever eat pork again.
You're literally going to gag now, aren't you? I made you gag with a joke.
Yeah, I didn't really like pork that much. Now I'm done. I thought it was bad enough after doing gross anatomy. I couldn't eat chicken for 2 years, but I don't know after this story.
I don't know. This pork chop tastes a little like Bill.
What does Bill taste like, Tim?
Is that cayenne pepper, or is that like Bill's armpit stink? Can't tell.
It's a faintly familiar odor. Kind of like his rubber.
Smells like
Bill's rubber boots.
Smells like his gym bag.
Smells like
I remember the last time we were in the gym. He opened his gym bag and it was real stinky. And it's kind of like what this pork smells like. And no one's found Jim.
With a hint of rubber boots.
The hint of rubber boots.
Oh boy.
Goes great with a nice Chianti and fava beans.
Well, while we're on this decrepit topic, maybe we should stray a little bit and thank our sponsor this week. And while we're on this murder mystery topic, there are a lot of other podcasts out there to listen to, including murder mysteries, breaking news. There's even a podcast about garden gnomes. But instead, you're here from listening to us and learning how to be the best, physician, Halloween, spooky artist there is.
By the time you're done with this, you will be the best physician serial killer in the world.
Do you know what else is a smart move? Working a locum tenens assignment with Comp Health. Now, I know what you're thinking, which is, what has this got to do with locums? But the best part about locums is that you can work flexible hours, flexible assignments on the side for extra income, or you can work locums full-time as well. And to top it all off, locums almost always pays more on average than a regular position. So if you're interested or know someone that is, just head to financialresidency.com/comphealth and see what locums can do for you financially.
All right. What are we drinking, sister?
Well, you poured it. I'm drinking it. why don't you tell us about this?
Okay,
fine-
so a couple little promotions here. We're trying to promote some of the local stuff that we have. We are drinking. I don't even know what you would really call this. I mean, it's a cocktail, obviously, but it is a hibiscus lavender.
I guess it's like instead of a lemon drop, it's a hibiscus lavender drop.
Well, kind of, except I used lime because we prefer lime to lemon.
Yeah.
And so I put an entire lime in a shaker, and then we used Raft Hibiscus lavender syrup, which is a local company out of Portland, Oregon, that makes these amazing cocktail syrups that you can use to make soda in your soda stream, or
Yes.
you can mix it, and a little bit goes a long ways. They're very potent, very sweet, so you get the mix right, and this is actually a really kind of cool drink. Would be, I mean, I think it'd be good any time of year, but I think again, the way I made it was really citrusy.
Yeah, it's citrusy. I mean, I can taste a lot of lime in here, so maybe that's
Yeah,
what I'm
maybe
tasting.
half a lime would have been. But you can mix and match so much with the adding lemon or adding lime. How much you add, how much syrup you add. These syrups are great because you don't have to be a master of mixology to get this stuff to make really cool drinks.
It's nice and sort of fruity-ish. It's not overpowering with the lavender. If anything, I would say more on the hibiscus-y side. It's pretty balanced, but really fun. And I picked that up at Market of Choice. Probably Whole Foods would have it. I don't know if it's just going to be West Coast-ish, but you can look online. It's Raft, R-A-F-T. They're not sponsoring us, but we would love it if they did. I really like their syrups. And they had a lemon, I think there's a ginger one as well. Did you happen to look?
Yes, there's numerous.
Yeah.
There's ginger. There's even more sort of Bloody Mary-ish kind of stuff.
Yes, I did remember seeing that one.
So,
Anyway, I
good
just
stuff.
grabbed it to give it a try. I thought it was something fun and different. And
and it's fun and different, and you just mix that with one of May's favorites, go-tos as far as a less expensive vodka, because she likes potato vodka. I can't tell the difference.
I think we're drinking Monopolowa.
We are.
Mm-hmm. Birthday gift.
But
from,
after
from a
7,
great friend.
After 7, I can't tell the difference.
7 sips or 7.
Well, it depends on the day.
Exactly.
And after you listen to this, wow, you'll never go to the doctor again. That's for sure. But
sounds that way. Okay, do I get to read a couple of fun?
Yeah, and then we're going to move on to Michael Swango. We're going to get into the 21st century with some wow.
Well, I'll get this. Okay, so apparently, I did not know. I guess I should have thought that doctors used to use the teeth of dead people to make dentures. I guess because, there was no fake teeth available to be made back in the 1800s, so dentists had to resort to making dentures out of real teeth. And they called these dentures Waterloo teeth because they initially yanked them out of people that had died in that war. And
so the Battle of Waterloo, like the Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but we still kind of do that. Like we give, people corneal transplant, cadaveric, there you go. I'll actually say the word correctly. Corneal donation,
organ
tendons,
transplants, yes. But somehow
transplants.
having someone else's teeth in my mouth just seems a little bit more weird than, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
But
I guess,
I don't know. So, before the advent of cups and bowls, people in ancient England used hollowed out human skulls to hold their food and drink. That's kind of gross.
Why wouldn't they just use pig skulls?
I don't know. So, then on to the spooky. You wanted some more spooky stuff. Did you know? So, I read that they said after decapitation, a human head would stay conscious for a while, up to 20 seconds in duration. And I'm like, no.
Well, how
way.
do you know that? Do you have an EEG on the guy's head?
So yes.
Like, is the guy...
So yes, that's what I wanted to know. How do they know this stuff? Well,
I want to see the randomized controlled trial of people whose heads have come off that are still alive for 20 seconds. I'm going to start with all of the unvaccinated.
So there is studies. not in people, obviously, but in chickens and rats. So I guess they did a laboratory study testing for humane methods of euthanasia in awake animals using EEG monitoring to measure the time duration following decapitation for rats to become fully unconscious and unable to perceive distress and pain. It was done. And it was estimated that this point was reached within 3 to 4 seconds, correlating closely with results found in other studies on rodents. So what they did was they recorded EEG monitoring to measure brain waves after death, and they think that the electrical activity in the brain has been shown to persist for like 13 to 14 seconds, but they don't know if that really means really much is what's going on. They think that the humans where the decapitation occurred, and it was probably more just reflexive spasming than someone actually being
how
alive.
I interpret this, though, is if you did it fast enough and cut somebody's head off fast enough, you could actually know what it was like to have your head up your ass. Like, literally know that.
Oh my God. Sick. But there's animals like cockroaches that can survive decapitation.
Yeah, but they're cockroaches.
And
you can also drop a cockroach.
So you know that if you cut its head off,
like
it doesn't die directly from that. It dies because of starvation because it can't eat.
Yeah, but cockroaches, like, honestly, okay, so you could drop a cockroach from what, like 400 times, 1,000 times its height, and it just bounces and nothing breaks. It doesn't break a leg. Like, think of that. Okay, think of that. You have an animal that you can drop from 400 times its height, right? So that'd be like 1,000 feet if you're a 6 foot tall man.
Yeah.
Okay. It bounces. It doesn't even break a leg or break a leg off or an antennae, and it can fly, and it can stick to a wall and walk up a wall. Like, honestly,
they're tougher than Conor McGregor.
They are amazing. Well, yeah. After the last fight, Conor's not very tough. So
speaking of headless stuff, so then I kept finding more and more stuff. Like Mike, the headless chicken, was alive for 18 months after being decapitated. Apparently, the story is a farmer named Lloyd Olson meant to eat Mike for dinner, but he didn't swing the axe correctly, and he missed the chicken's jugular vein and most of the brainstem. And so this chicken has had his head kind of hanging off, and he was alive.
But it had enough of a brainstem that it would maintain like breathing and heart rate and whatnot.
He stayed alive for 18 months.
And then do you know what the chicken did in that 18 months?
Cross the road?
It was elected.
Sorry, I had to laugh at my own joke.
It was elected to Congress.
Oh, brother. My joke is funnier. He crossed the road. Oh, man. You got any decapitation stories?
No, I don't have any decapitation stories, but this guy's a real freak. So Joseph Michael Swango was born in 1954. His press nickname was Dr. Death before the next Dr. Death, which was made famous by the Peacock, the NBC network Peacock, which if you have not seen that series, you should. It's
Don't watch it if you need to have neurosurgery done.
Yeah, if you have a cervical disc, don't watch it.
Yeah,
So, anyways, the guy was smart. He was valedictorian of his high school, played clarinet in the band, kind of a boring dude. Went into the Marine Corps, got honorably discharged, on and on and on. So then he starts going into medical school, and he has a propensity for wanting to ride in the ambulance. And because what ends up happening is then they start complaining about this guy. The paramedics are complaining about him because a couple things. People that are around this guy seem to die at a super high rate, and people that work with him get sick all the time, like really ill. Okay, and I'll explain why that is going forward here. So eventually this guy just starts poisoning patients and gets kicked out of a couple different residencies. And the thing that's really wild about this story is how he managed to continue, he got charged with poisoning somebody. Okay. And then I don't know if I can't remember if he went to jail or not. He gets out, he forges all these documents, gets back into another residency. And changes his name, but somehow gets into another residency, then has the brilliant idea of joining the American Medical Association, which, honestly, I don't know a single doctor that likes the AMA because
I do, but I will not say their name.
Yeah, well, because...
That's one person.
Yeah, but because the AMA sticks up for giant insurance companies and huge political interests and not for family doctors, because I think the AMA totally sucks! So I have not given them...
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, man, no, honestly, they're just a huge... we need to be more like... Doctors need to be more like lawyers, and like the American Trial Association actually sticks up for lawyers.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's another story. So the AMA, okay, this is after this guy has been convicted of poisoning somebody. And then he gets back into another residency with forged documentation.
And how? Did he change his name?
He changed his name.
Okay.
And then the American Medical Association, and I quote, did a more thorough background check than Sanford University, not Stanford, Sanford, and found out about the poisoning conviction. That Thanksgiving Day, the Discovery Channel aired an episode of Justice Files that included a segment about Swango. Amid the AMA report and calls from frightened colleagues, Sanford fired Swango. And then he gets discovered, right? Meanwhile, he's living with this woman. Her last name's Kinney, and she was suffering from violent migraines until they broke up, and then her headaches went away.
So I mean, maybe, I don't know, that you could just think it was the stressful relationship.
Well,
you could. Literally a pain in her head.
No, it was because this genius, one of his poisons of choice is arsenic, okay, which is metal poisoning, heavy metal poisoning, right? And so you get really, really sick. It's not like cyanide, right? Like you take cyanide, and it's like the Nazis in jail during the Nuremberg trials.
Well, you're dead right away.
Bite the cyanide, you're dead like right away, right? Your hemoglobin can't bind up any oxygen, you're dead. Arsenic, you get sick, and if it's chronic arsenic poisoning, you can be sick for months or
like
years.
Lead poisoning.
Yeah, it's just like headaches, nausea, vomiting, all this other stuff. And so he would do this. So so he gets caught. He decides that the way to deal with this is in 1994, he goes to Zimbabwe.
Wait. He gets caught, and then he just gets to leave and go to Zimbabwe?
Well, he gets caught, and he doesn't go to jail because he had only the one crime that they had figured out, right? Which was this
So does he
poisoning
kind of just
charge.
flee before anything can happen?
Correct. So
Okay.
he gets kicked out of medical, out of residency. He can't obviously practice medicine in the United States. So he just goes to Zimbabwe and gets like a medical technician job, right? And then people start dying around this guy, right? So people always died around this guy, but because it's so difficult to prove cause and effect, especially in a hospital, especially with older people, et cetera, it gets really weird.
So they just wrote it off to bad juju?
Right. And so, but then they got him on, it was more like you get a sense, right? Like we've worked with some pretty sketchy folks over the 30 years we've done it, in training and whatnot. And so, people are like, nah, this guy's not legit, but you can't prove it. So you can't,
Right.
it's a criminal case.
Okay. So now he's in
caught on one thing.
Zimbabwe.
So now he goes to Zimbabwe, and of course people start dying. And then, the heat's starting to build up a little bit in Zimbabwe. So eventually he's like, okay, what are we going to do? And
he's working as an aide, you said, during this time?
Yeah. And so he's around patients, but he's not a doctor.
Okay.
And so he's like, okay, what am I going to do next? And so he has this genius idea that he's going to go to the Bastion of Freedom where he can start, morting a bunch more people. And he goes to, he's on his way to Saudi Arabia. So
I thought he went to Zambia first.
Oh, he did. He ran to Zambia, and then he's like, he's got to get out of Africa because, if they figure out that he's been killing people in Africa, it's not going to be nice.
No,
it's
not a good place.
It's not going to be nice. So then what he does is he ends up traveling to Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, he has all this caseload in the back of all these suspicious cases. So he had worked for the Veterans Administration, so that's a federal thing.
Okay.
So the FBI has been investigating this guy while he's gone, okay? And he again, valedictorian of his high school class, doctor, etc. And on his way to Saudi Arabia, he stops at Chicago.
How does that even happen?
To get a connecting
How do you
flight.
go from Africa to the U.S. to go to Saudi?
I don't know. Okay.
No.
And so
that's called throwing yourself out there
so then
to be arrested.
So then Customs.
That's called taking every cheap flight on Expedia there is to get.
So Customs
and every red eye.
So Customs gets a hold of this guy, and they're like, okay, we got enough to charge him, and they charge him, and then they get all these other cases that blow up, and he ends up going to jail for like a gajillion
very
terms.
Long time.
Right, and actually, it makes you wonder. Because if, obviously there's an extradition order from Zimbabwe for him to go back to Africa. And if he'd go there, they'd just kill him, right?
Well, it sounds like he wanted to get caught and go to jail in the U.S. I mean, you take a flight from Africa to the U.S. to get to Saudi. Like I said, it's either like an Expedia planning trip gone bad for the cheapest flight route you can get, or that guy had to have known that his number was up and that he wanted to be in the luxurious American.
So he had between
system.
40 and 60 victims.
Jeez, over how many years?
Do you know? Yeah, like 15, 16 years.
Yeah. So this is giving doctors a bad name, and if you watch Dr. Death like we did, that was creepy.
And then I'll go through some of these quickly because I don't want to get it too long here. Okay. Harold Shipman is the only English physician to be convicted as a serial killer. He was a general practitioner. He was the most prolific serial killer in the history in modern history.
He's Dr. Shipman.
Dr. Shipman
from England.
Mm-hmm. Who they think killed 250 people.
Over how many years do you know?
He started, again, the Angel of Death is one of his nicknames, Dr. Death, and the Good Doctor were all these pseudonyms that he got.
So how do they, I know you're going to get to it, but I'm like already excited. How do they know he killed 250 people? That's just obviously not how many patients died under him.
Okay, so he was convicted for 15 murders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, it's super hard to build these because it's really hard to prove, right? Like, you're doing house calls on a woman that's, a man or a woman that's in their 90s or in their 80s, and they're quite infirm, and they all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 days later, they're found dead in their room, right? And then people start going, well, what happened? Well, their GP came and did a house call, and then they're dead. And actually, part of how this all unraveled for this guy was that the taxi drivers would drop patients off at his office, and they'd be elderly people that were in like great health, and then they'd go to Shipman's office, and then there was never any more taxi rides because they were dead a few days later. So it was the taxi drivers that were bringing patients to this guy's office that started to peel the onion back and go, this is totally jacked up. And that's how they started the investigation.
So obviously healthy people showing up, then becoming dead.
Yeah, rapidly dead after they saw him. And the only connection the taxi cabs go, hey, mate, governor, I dropped this guy off, and then a couple of days later, he's dead as shit.
So was there a common theme on how he killed people, or was it?
Yeah, these guys, arsenic, like, please don't kill people with arsenic. That's just mean. Yeah, most of these are just, it's
poisoning.
It's opiates, right? Like massive doses of heroin or, morphine or or whatever the case may be. Well, at least he dies sort of happy.
And did they ever interview him to find out what kind of thoughts were going through his head to make him a psychopath like this?
This one, no.
Did he think he was putting them out of their misery or anything like that?
Well, yes. They're even Jolly Jane Toppin, the one that liked to hold people whilst they, shuffled off their mortal coil.
Hold people. Maybe she was just holding people.
But
we'll leave it at that.
Anyways, she had defenders. Because she's like, these people needed to die anyways. They were infirm. And this was at a time, as we had talked about in previous podcasts, eugenics, cleansing the gene pool, whatever. So she actually had people that defended her, like in popular culture.
It's a slippery slope, you know?
To hell, yes. It is very slippery. Very, very slippery. So this guy was committing crimes from 1975 to 1998. Eventually got convicted, got thrown in jail. And
he
then
didn't have any fun, kind of gruesome ways of killing people.
He did not have gas chambers in his house.
No,
he
that
just
was the
managed
best.
to kill like
He just used the good old-fashioned KCL or opiates.
Right.
Okay.
So you want to talk about gruesome ways? One more. Linda Laura Hazard.
Oh, that's a perfect name.
The starvation
Hazard.
Starvation doctor.
Oh.
She lived from 1867 to 1938.
She looks pretty scary, too.
She started
picture.
a sanitarium near Seattle where she would cleanse people by starving them.
Cleanse them of what? Like
she would cleanse them by starving
them. Like a bowel cleanse?
No. Oh, no, the bowel cleanses came.
Oh.
She would give people 5-hour enemas and then pound the toxins out of them by beating them with her fists.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? So eventually the bodies start piling
you think
up.
They would start pounding her back.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking I would too.
Yes. So they, the bodies started piling up, and she, got this really terrible name in the United States. So she went to New Zealand, okay? I mean, it's like absolute quackery. Like people on 50-day fasts. 50 days, okay? Bobby Sands.
So she's just withholding food from them in these sanitariums.
Right. So Bobby Sands, probably the most famous hunger strike of all time. Back in 1981, he was Irish Republican Army, and, was thrown into this prison and treated poorly, and he made it 66 days. So 27-year-old guy, really healthy, normal weight. It wasn't like he was 400 pounds. He was like a normal-sized guy. He made it 66 days, okay? So she had people, escaping from the sanitarium and, like running out into the roads, and people are like, what is going on? And because people are, like, total skeletons, right? And so eventually, the law catches up with her and whatever. So she goes to New Zealand, and she becomes very wealthy with a bunch of quackery stuff that she did in New Zealand, to the point where she was able to come back to the United States after the smoke had cleared and build her master sanitarium.
Oh no, what happened there? Did she do a bunch of wacky crap like that again?
She started doing wacky crap till she eventually met her own demise.
What, did someone pound the crap out of her?
No, she died of starvation.
Wow. Okay. Like, weird. People are weird, and it's sad because it happens in medicine too. I don't know if that was spooky or just creepy.
Well, no, but it's spooky, creepy. One person's spooky is another person's creepy.
I like my headless chicken running around for 18 months, but
18 months,
I know. Yeah. It is pretty creepy.
And they named the chicken Pelosi, correct? So anyways, I don't care. Whatever. Like
oh my gosh.
So at any rate,
anyway.
Yeah, I know, okay. But it's amazing because I the most amazing part of that story is how she, clear quackery, right? Like, look, is fasting good for you? Clearly. Is fasting, ancient knowledge?
Are you trying to make a moral of the story out of this?
I am. No, just listen. No, like clearly, I mean, Jesus was on a 40-day fast. Fasting is in every major world religion. But it's obviously, like, common sense will tell you, right, that, like, 50-day fasts and losing your vision and hallucinating from fasting is probably an incredibly bad idea.
Yeah, but these people weren't fasting. She was doing it to them against their will. What are we talking about?
No, some she was. But the fact is she took the same BS and went to New Zealand and made piles of money.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, there was all this quackery was attractive to people. Like, most of the people that she killed were rich people because it was like the shishi thing to go to the sanitarium and get the whatever.
Well, I did read that coffee enemas were still kind of the in thing in Hollywood these days.
But that's the point.
I prefer my coffee on the other end of my body first thing in the morning.
Right. But look again. And,
hey, if you're gonna have coffee, you got to have it run past your taste buds first.
And not to make yes, coffee enemas.
No. Why waste a good cup of coffee?
No, they use Nescafe or Folgers. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your ass.
No, but that rhymes with cup better. Anyway,
it does. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your butt.
Okay, we digress. Let's just 300 or 180 degree turn this ship around. So I hope you enjoyed all those.
Let's turn this ship 360
stories.
Degrees around.
I almost said that. Okay, before we time out, what's your favorite Halloween candy, Tim? Do you have one?
Well, specific Halloween candy? I like chocolate bars.
You like the little mini bite or whatever they call this fun size?
Yeah, like honestly, people that like that candy corn.
Okay, I was going to ask.
That
candy corn, yay or nay?
No, it's from the pit of hell.
It is pretty gross, but I read someone's Instagram post and they were doing a survey and 60% of people that answered that one, maybe it's just the demographic here, liked candy corn.
It's biased.
It's really
I
gross.
want a randomized controlled trial of candy corn and its ability to excite the taste buds in a way that makes the vaccine more effective.
Okay. Before we go, I got to tell you this funny story you don't know it about when I grew up. And so about candy, Halloween candy. Where I lived in the neighborhood, like I was on a popular main street and there was hundreds of homes. And so we would go out with our pillowcases to collect all this candy. And we would just go fast as we could, house to house, and get our pillowcases full. And I would usually be able to like make a pit stop, dump it, and then make another run. And I'd probably get 2 pillowcases at least full of candy. My mom was at home and we had tons of kids coming. She would always keep track every year. We probably would bank like 120 kids on average because of where we lived. So we'd run out of candy. And so when I made the pit stop, my mom had this thing where, because she knew that the good stuff was all the little chocolate bars and I would get all those like suckers and those little candy corns and all those little Twizzler
or like
things.
when you had the dentist on your block and the stupid bastard would give you a toothbrush.
Wait, stop.
Like honestly,
Stop.
you're
Nah.
a dentist. You should be giving the stuff, the licorice or the toffee that pulls out caps and fillings.
Hey, you interrupted me, but my dentist, who literally lived down the back lane from me, would give 2 giant chocolate bars every year. He did. He was smart. It was always 2 big ones.
And
they
the
were the best.
endocrinologist always gave 3 with a vial of insulin.
So anyway, what I was going to say is my mom then would say she would trade. She would do this bank trade thing, and I would show up with my crappy candy that I didn't like, those yucky lollipops that, are just really cheap, and the Twizzlers and all the candy corn crap, and she would trade me like 2 of Twizzlers or 2 candy corns for 1 chocolate bar, and I would do this bartering, and then she would re-gift the yucky candy to the neighborhood so that I got all the good chocolate bars. How do you like them?
That's good. Like you're basically playing poker, Halloween poker with your mom.
I did. So my favorite candy would be probably I like the chocolate bars too. When I was a kid, I liked the Reese's peanut butter cups. Until one year we got one. It had a worm in it, and then I couldn't eat them for a long time.
Just like pork from this day forward.
Oh, and on that note, don't watch an episode of Poltergeist or anything spooky this year if it's not up your alley.
I had another story.
No.
But we're done, and it's the worst of the worst. So maybe
we'll
we'll throw that into another.
We'll have to concoct it then into some episode so that we can share it in another format.
Yeah, like because it's but really, no. Should you be surprised that people that have that have access to really easy ways to kill people? You're not going to get a deranged person that every once in a while just kills people. There was a guy in England who they think, the one dude that I talked about that killed 250 people. It was the exact same story, but he had a really good lawyer, and he got off on all the charges. And the guy inherited like all this money from his patients because he would get them to sign over their will to him, and then they die. And he got away with it. He lived to like his 80s.
Jeez.
It's wild.
Well, happy Halloween, everybody. Have some fun out there. Stay safe in your Halloween costumes. You'll be fully masked in a costume, so you're all kosher and good.
Wear a mask.
And
Not just a Halloween mask.
And maybe we'll have a little Halloween surprise on you on our Facebook and Instagram pages. See you next time.
Later.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit, uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more, and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.
Recording.
It's recording now. 3, 2, 1. It has to be right. Okay, like this. 3, 2, 1.
Sounds like you banged your head.
It did, because just like Cousin Eddie, I have a plate in my head, and every time the wife fires up the microwave, I piss my pants. Can't remember where I was from. For
Okay,
half
that's
an
got
hour.
to go in the blooper. That can't be the beginning of the show.
It is a Doc Tales with Cocktails, and no one knows how many cocktails we've had prior to the show, so I think it's just fine.
No, let's start over.
Okay, all right. 3, 2, 1. We're starting over. The clinking does not work. 3, 2, 1. Starting over.